everyone, and welcome to Lawyer's Case Files. My name is Joy Phillips. On today's episode, we will be talking about the case of Hanifar Abubakar. Hanifar was born in the year 2016 to the family of Mr. and Mrs. Abdulsalam Abubakar. Like her parents, she was also a native of Kano State in the northern part of Nigeria. Hanifar was the only child of her parents, and she was also fondly named Muja after her aunt, who was also appointed as her legal guardian. Even though Hanifar was only 5 years old, she attended Noble Kids Academy in Dakata in the Nasarawa area of Kano State. And as at December 2021, it is reported that Hanifar had only been at this school for 2 terms. Hanifar was described by her father and everyone who knew her as being very friendly, easygoing, loving, caring, and easily loved by everyone associated with her. According to Mr. Abdulsalam Abubakar, Hanifar's father, Hanifar was last seen alive in the early morning of December 4th, 2021, as she left her family house to attend an Islamic school in the company of other neighborhood kids. Born in the Rugo local government area, 34-year-old Abdul Malik Tanko is also a native of Kano State. At 29, he got married to Jamila Tanko, and after 6 years, their union produced 3 daughters. Mr. Abdul Malik Tanko attended Fatima International Primary School and then Government Secondary School Stadium, all in the Kano metropolis area. And then he went on to attend Kano State Polytechnic, from where he obtained his national diploma in 2011. Mr. Tanko started his teaching career at Eto Ino International Schools in the Tudunwada area of Kano State, where he was employed to teach computer and general studies. It is said that he was actually very well known around the Tudunwada area of Kano State because he had taught many young residents of this area computer classes. According to Mr. Paul Ino, the proprietor of the school, Mr. Tanko was actually promoted to the position of the headmaster of Eto Ino International Schools. Mr. Paul described Mr. Tanko as being a well-trained teacher, good with kids, but quiet, usually reserved and not able to mingle with a lot of people. It is, however, reported that Mr. Tanko was dismissed from his position as the headmaster of this school somewhere around 2015 due to allegations of misappropriation of school funds. It's not exactly clear what Mr. Tanko had done next, immediately following his dismissal from Eto Ino International Schools, but it's reported that somewhere around 2017, he opened his first private school, Northwest Preparatory School, at Kwanare Yangana, Tudun Molita, Nasarawa area of Kano State. As of December of 2021, Mr. Abdul Malik Tanko lived at Tudun Molitala area of Kano State and now owns 2 private schools, Northwest Preparatory School and Noble Kids Academy. It is one of these private schools, Noble Kids Academy, that little Hanifar attended. It is reported that around November of 2021, Mr. Abdul Malik Tanko approached one Mr. Hashim Ishaka, 37 years old, and also a resident of Tudun Multala quarters, and one Fatima Jubril, 27, a female, that also lived around the same area, and allegedly instructed them to kidnap little Hanifar for ransom. It is said that following this instruction, Mr. Hashim Ishaku and Fatima Jubril on several occasions made attempt to kidnap little Hanifar as instructed, but he said that all these attempts failed because Hanifar refused to follow them as she obviously did not know them. Following all these failed attempts, Mr. Abdulmalik Tanko obviously decided that it was time for him to go and try. So on December 4th, 2021, Mr. Abdulmalik Tanko, riding on a keke, the tricycle, at about 5 p.m. offered little Hanifar and other neighborhood kids a free ride to their houses as they were coming back from an Islamic school that they usually attend. From what we know, Hanifar and her friends accepted this offer of free ride from Mr. Tanko at this time. And it is said that when they got to their bus stop, Mr. Tanko dropped off the other neighborhood kids but asked Hanifar to stay back and enjoy more ride with him. Unfortunately, Hanifar also accepted this offer and re-entered the tricycle, this time alone without her friends. According to police reports, Mr. Tanko first took Hanifar from this point to his house, where he introduced Hanifar to his wife as the daughter of one of the aunties that taught at his school, who had traveled to Abuja for an interview and had asked him to keep Hanifar in his house while she was away on this trip. The wife said that she accepted to keep Hanifar in their home for the period of time that the mother was away until her return. They alleged that Mr. Tanko then secretly proceeded to make demands of ransom payments from the family of Hanifar. It is said that initially he made a ransom demand of about 6 million from the family, and the family rallied round and raised part of the money which they paid to Mr. Tanko. But unfortunately, Mr. Tanko refused to release the girl to the family even after receiving the payment of this ransom. It is not exactly clear for how long Mr. Tanko kept Hanifar at his house, but it's reported that somewhere along the line he heard from his informants that the parents of the girl said that the girl mentioned that they were picked by an uncle. Probably on hearing this information, Mr. Tanko panicked and realized that he had to take Hanifar to a different location. It is also said that within this period, some members of his staff at one of his private schools paid him a visit very early in the morning at his house. And Mr. Tanko suspected that the purpose of this visit was to see whether Hanifar was in his house. So at this point, Mr. Tanko knew that he couldn't keep Hanifar anymore in his house. He realized that he had to take Hanifar away from his house. According to him, his initial plan was to take Hanifar out of Kano State, somewhere else where she will not be recognized. But then he realized that there was no way he would take Hanifar away from this place in a cab or without being recognized, without someone recognizing her, because the news of her kidnap has been all over the place in the news. So on December 18th, 2021, Mr. Tanko walked back to his house at about 11 p.m. when the kids, including Hanifar, had gone to bed. He told his wife that it was time for him to take Hanifar back to her mother, since the mother had come back from her trip. According to Mrs. Jamila Tanko, she suggested to Mr. Tanko to wait till the next day so that Hanifar can even say goodbye to her friends, their kids, their 3 daughters, as they were already asleep. But Mr. Tanko insisted that he had to take Hanifar back to her mother that night. And so on this note, Mr. Tanko took Hanifar away from his family home and took her to the premises of one of his private schools. It is said that it was here that he handed Hanifar a drink which later turned out to also contain rat poison. And Hanifar had this drink, which eventually ended her life. After this, Mr. Tanko once again reached out to Mr. Hashim Ishaku to assist him in the dismembering of the body of little Hanifar, and also in digging a shallow grave in which Hanifar's body was to be buried. Abdul Malik Tanko and his co-conspirator, Mr. Hashim Ishaku, then went ahead to bury the dismembered body of Hanifar Abubakar in the premises of Northwest Preparatory School, one of the private schools belonging to Mr. Tanko. Now, you and I will think that this is where they will stop. But no, that wouldn't be the case here. As according to police reports, Mr. Tanko continued to make repeated calls for payment of additional ransom from the family of Hanifar Abubakar in order to secure the release of their daughter, even though he knows that that wouldn't have been possible in this case. According to the police, it was following these demands for additional ransom and a sustained effort by the police and the family of the victim that led to the arrest of the abductors somewhere at Zaria Road, while they were trying to make attempts at collecting the second round of ransom from the victim's family.